What is up with it, everybody? Live from the studios of WIUR at the Murphy Center of Iona University. Welcome to Woolley Mammoth Tuesdays. Yes, I know the name does not roll off the tongue as well, not as well as Woolly Mammoth Mondays or Woolly Mammoth Wednesdays, but I wanted to stick with the Woolly Mammoth brand. And to be honest, I don't know how much of a name change would really affect marginally maybe would affect the viewership here, but yeah, I'm here going to be keeping you company here for like within the hour, talking about some sports. We got the NFL conference championships, a lot of football happening. Now, honestly, that is the only real relevant thing in the news right now because hockey stinks, basketball stinks, but we've got a lot of football news. I might want to talk about John Harbaugh with the Giants here because I do have thoughts on that I haven't been able to express in a long form way. But, we're going to dive right into it. The NFL conference championships were on Sunday. The New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. That is going to be your Super Bowl 60 matchup. Geez, we're already at 60. I tell you, I've lost count with how many Super Bowls that we have now. But anyways, Super Bowl 60, the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. And I got to tell you, man, dude, with the Pats, are we serious again with the Pats? We had 1 year without the Chiefs, 1 year. And guess who shows up again? It's the New England Patriots. And I cannot think of a less deserving fan base. Dude, really think about it. That whole city, what sports hardship have they gone through? And to be honest, I don't know how a Boston sports fan can ever be sad about their life. Because given the amount of stock that I put emotionally into my sports teams doing well, I truly do not know how somebody who is a full-blown Boston sports fan, I'm not just talking about a fan of one of the teams, but all of them, a fan of the, Patriots, Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics, like all four of those teams. All I can think of is the Bruins, maybe, as the only team who really makes their fans go through it. And even then, they make the playoffs all the time. But as a Yankee fan, I can relate to that not being enough. So the Patriots, they're back in the Super Bowl. And, dude, there are a couple fan bases in the AFC East right now that I know are very mad at how this is happening. I'm going to get to the other one later, but first I want to start, dude, the Buffalo Bills. And we're going to talk about them in a little bit with their head coaching hire with Joe Brady. But my God, dude, if you're a Bills fan and within the time that Tom Brady walks to Tampa Bay, the Patriots draft Mac Jones, doesn't do well over there, busts out. Belichick leaves. And then the whole thing gets torn down. This is your chance. And that's your window and you go for it. And in that time period where the Patriots not only draft a new franchise quarterback in Drake May, who is fantastic. I do not want to hear a thing about the schedule that he played against. Drake May, let's face it, he's a good quarterback. No, he's a great quarterback. I'm going to go as far as to say he's a great quarterback. May very well be bound for the Hall of Fame. But in that time, the Patriots, they found a franchise quarterback, found a new head coach, and got back to the Super Bowl. All in the time span that it took for the Buffalo Bills to not even make it to one. And when you think about it, this might have been the Bills Super Bowl window slamming shut. Because you have Josh Allen on his big boy contract. You have no receivers around him. And you have a new coach, and things are not looking good at all in Buffalo. And I just want to dive into this point again. Dude, let's not call the Patriots frauds. I know there's all talk of ooh, they played against the Justin Herbert without an offensive line. They play against who they play in the divisional round. They played the Texans. They played against CJ Stroud, who sucks, and then they played against the Broncos without Bo Nix. It's okay, well, But the Broncos, even with Bo Nix, there were the same people, myself included, who were saying that the Broncos weren't that good to begin with. And I'm going to maintain that point even after this game where everybody was defending them and saying, oh, if Bo Nix was starting, they would have won by multiple possessions. And sure, that may have been true. But again, dude, Bo Nix, I'm not high on him as a quarterback. I'm sorry. I'm just going to, I'm calling it like it is, dude. Bo Nix is not that good of a quarterback. And I'm going to be for real as somebody who has gone for a few trips around the sun. I'm not going to say I'm old yet. I'm only 21. I'm going to turn 22. I am very much still a spring chicken, but I have been in the sports atmosphere long enough. I have been in the NFL world for enough time to recognize these are the same exact talking points that they were throwing out at the Patriots during Brady's years. Because think about it, really. Every single Super Bowl that Brady won with the Patriots had an excuse that everybody used to discredit it. 0-1, tuck rule. 0-3, John Casey kicking it out of bounds. 0-4, the Eagles clock management. 14, the Seahawks running it at the 1 yard line, or not running it at the 1 yard line. Super Bowl 51. I mean, 28-3. Take your pick at how many breaks went their way that people used to invalidate that ring. And then 2018, the last one of the Brady Belichick era, you had D Ford being offside and the defense carrying him in the Super Bowl. But like, there comes a point where you just gotta give him credit, dude. Everybody said when the Patriots made it to the playoffs, like, ooh, they're going to get knocked out in the first round. The Chargers are a way better team. They not only beat them, they outclassed them in the wild card game. The Chargers looked like they didn't even belong on the same field as them. The divisional round, dude, the Texans have an elite defense. This is a good matchup for them. CJ Stroud throws 4 picks. Yeah, no, dude. At some point, dude, the other teams just got to execute. And then the AFC Championship game, the excuse was already baked in before kickoff. After the divisional round, the excuse was already baked in for why the Patriots made it to the Super Bowl. It was, the Bo Nix was hurt, Jarrett Stidham was starting, completely ignoring the talking point about Bo Nix to begin with. So, no, I'm not going to hop on this stupid bandwagon discrediting their success because, truth be told, dude, at some point, the other teams have to execute. And I used to be really mad at the teams who were winning a lot. But, dude, we just got to face some facts. The AFC is filled with a bunch of losers. You have, because, like, look at the list of AFC champions going back to 2000. Like, actually, no, I'm going to rattle them off right now. 2000, Ravens. 01, Pats. 02, Raiders. Whoa. 03, Pats. 04, Pats. 05, Steelers. 06, Colts. Peyton Manning. 07, Patriots. 16-0. We know what happened in that game. 08, Steelers. 09, Colts. Peyton Manning. You know, I'm going to lump Peyton Manning into just one unit here. So 09, you add Peyton Manning. 10, Steelers. 11, Patriots. 12, Ravens. Whoa, little variety there again. 13, Peyton Manning. 14, Patriots. 15, Peyton Manning. 16, Patriots. 17, Patriots. 18, Patriots. 19, Chiefs. Whoa, little variety. No, you're just under new management now, mister. 20, Chiefs. 21, Chiefs. 21, Bengals. Whoa, there's the only real wild card there. The Bengals. Yeah, the Bengals. Whoa. Then 22, Chiefs, next 3 years, and then right back to the Patriots again. Okay, I'm sorry. At some point, like we give all this credit to the other quarterbacks in the AFC, the Big Four, with Lamar, Burrow, and Allen. Burrow made it to a Super Bowl, but Allen and Lamar, I'm sorry, dude. At some point, you gotta put on your big boy pants and do it yourself. I'm tired of giving out excuses for losers in this conference. I'm tired of feeling sorry for them. And I gotta give credit where it's due. There are very few organizations and players in the AFC in this century that have known how to properly execute and win. You had the Patriots, you had Peyton Manning, and you had the Chiefs. That's it. In the 21st century, I cannot think of any other player or team or organization. Well, team and organization are really the same thing, but I can't. Any of that, any other one that actually knows how to win. And the Patriots happen to be one of three. Again, it's the Patriots, Chiefs, Peyton Manning. That's it. There's nobody else. Think of it. Really, think about it. Nobody else in the AFC knows how to win except those three. And it's on them to actually do the work and give us variety as football fans. Because if you look at the NFC, geez, I can't even recall the last 10. Dude, the NFC has so much parity that the New York Football Giants have made it to 3 Super Bowls in the 2000s. And they've been a disaster for the latter half of it. Oh, man, dude, just I didn't expect to go on this kind of tangent. But point is, can we stop discrediting the winners for winning? You can't. You just can't. Oh, man. Anyways, on to the representative of the NFC real quick. I just want to give some love to the Seattle Seahawks. Dude, my goodness. That team, that organization, you want to talk about winners? This is one of them. They are such a well-oiled machine. My God, just watching them play. I got to tell you, though, that Tariq Woolen unsportsmanlike conduct, if the Seahawks lost that game, oh, dude, he would have had to sell his house like immediately after the game. He's on Zillow on his phone in the locker room. I'm being serious. That's how bad that penalty was. And I mean, dude, I wish that was just the Super Bowl. That was such like 2 really good teams, 2 ethical teams with 2 great quarterbacks. And dude, like 2 great coaches. Dude, Sean McVay and Mike Macdonald. Mike Macdonald at this point, he's a top 5 coach already with what he's been able to do with that team. You want to talk about fundamentally sound? I don't think there is a more fundamentally sound team in the NFL than the Seattle Seahawks right now. By God, I don't think there is. Try and name me one team that has better fundies than the Seattle Seahawks. You can't. And dude, JSN, he's the best receiver in football. Blow your nose with any other take. He has developed into such a game breaker. And I didn't think he was going to be this good. Like, I thought he was going to be good. I'm like, oh, yeah, dude, JSN. Like, I wanted the Giants to draft him in 2023. It's like he was the top of my wish list. I thought he'd be good, but dude, he's breaking every single one of Steve Largent's records. Which, by the way, that should tell you how good Steve Largent was. It's every time the Seahawks would pop up on Red Zone, I would be hit with some graphic where it's like, JSN broke this Seahawks receiving record previously held by Steve Largent in the early 80s. And it's just like, my God, dude, that guy, he was ridiculous. But yeah, JSN, he's getting open all the time. He can make any catch at any level. He can run after the catch. He does everything a receiver should do. And if he keeps this up, he may retire top 5 all time. He's going to end up in the Hall of Fame. Just an absolute football player that they have over there in Jackson Smith and Jigba. And he is incredible. He's amazing. I love him. I love him. I love him. I love him. So fun to watch. And to be honest, I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for him in this Super Bowl. And we cannot talk about the Seattle Seahawks without talking about Sam Darnold. I mean, Tell you, but believe it, get a load of this stat. Sam Darnold is the first quarterback from the 2018 draft class to make it to a Super Bowl. Well, I guess technically that was true with the 49ers in 2023, but he's the first starting quarterback from the 2018 draft class to start a Super Bowl. No, 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 but imagine that. I mean, that's how we all drew it up at draft time. Just to be perfectly clear, that's absolutely how we all drew it up. I think Sam Darnold was a lot of people's QB ones going into that night. But dude, he doesn't make mistakes. He's playing at such a high level, and he's just reached a flow state in these playoffs. I mean, you're talking about one of the best playoff runs in NFL history if he caps us off against New England. Which, boy, speaking of that matchup, Sam Darnold versus the New England Patriots. Oh man, I'm gonna get to that perspective in a little bit. Just gonna try and find our little breaks here before we get sent off here. All right. We've got our breaks here. So when we get back, I'm gonna do a deep dive into how being a Jets fan has got to be right now. And after that, we're gonna talk about some of the movements in the NFL coaching world. It's a football Tuesday here on WIUR.
This is WIUR Radio.
Hi, I'm Becca Bittner, the host of Iona University's news show, Good Morning Gales. My co-host, Nick Waltieri, and I cover everything that's going on here at Gale Nation. We give you all the buzzing campus news you need to know before your first cup of coffee every Friday morning. Make sure to check out our morning show, along with our sports show, Gale Zone, on our IUTV Instagram and YouTube. With hosts Cam Woolley and Chris Delaro, you'll get sports updates from the Heinz Athletic Center to the big leagues. See you there, and as always, go Gales. Now, back to WIUR.
All right, folks, we are back. Had to refill my water bottle real quick. But yeah, we're gonna go into this deep dive here about why this Super Bowl matchup is particularly miserable for one fan base, and I'm pretty sure you know what fan base is coming. That it's a perpetually miserable group of football fans. I don't know how these people are alive still. I mean, I think of how bad it's been for my team, and then I just imagine that's just their whole existence. Imagine being a New York Jets fan right now. Just imagine that. You draft this kid, Sam Darnold, third overall in 2018. You're thinking he's the savior. And then in typical Jet fashion, you ruin him like the Jets do every other prospect. Dude, there's no quarterback. I mean, maybe Mark Sanchez, and that's a pretty low bar, dude. If Mark Sanchez is the guy you didn't screw up, then I don't know who. I mean, that's just bad. And so you let him go reasonably. I'll say very reasonable move to let Sam Darnold go after his tenure as the starting quarterback of the New York Jets, who you threw into a meat grinder and expected him to come out. But they threw him into a meat grinder and expected him to come out in one piece. And that's just not how it works, because that's not how meat grinders work. If you're a being of flesh and blood and you get thrown into a meat grinder, you're not going to come out the same being of flesh and blood. You're going to come out a shredded up pile of, well, meat. And that is what the New York Jets did to Sam Darnold. And then After that, he goes on a few pit stops around the league. And of course, Sam Darnold in his first game as the not Jet starting quarterback, he beats them with their new savior, Zach Wilson, who also just sucked. I think that was more Zach Wilson's fault, if anything, because God, dude, that. I mean, how much of it was the Jets or how much of it was Zach Wilson? I think it was a mutual effort on both fronts there with awfulness. And then Sam Darnold goes on a few pit stops around the league. It's a group project with 3 different organizations to fix him. And the Jets are not the only team here who's getting clowned for this. The Vikings let him walk last year after he played like a borderline MVP candidate, and then let him walk in favor of JJ McCarthy, who sucks, like really, really sucks. I think that's just the case of the quarterback being bad. And then Sam Darnold goes on to just ball out, play some of the most efficient quarterback I've ever seen, goes on a amazing playoff run, and then goes into the Super Bowl to play the New England Patriots. Just imagine being a Jet fan and you want to enjoy the playoffs, and then the result is Sam Darnold versus the New England Patriots. I'm sorry, dude. Oh my God. I don't know how you people live. Oh, dude. I'm sorry, but come on. Come on, dude. Can the script writers, God, I'm talking to you now. Please give these people a break. They've gone how many years without a playoff berth? I was 6 the last time the Jets made it to the playoffs. I can legally drink now. And the Jets, in the time that it's taken for the Jets to go to the playoff, to make a playoff berth again, I can't speak. I can't speak. You know, my brain's working the same way the New York Jets brand is working right now. But oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm just replaying. I'm just thinking about it in my head over and over again, and it's hilarious. Oh my God, how do you people live with this as your football team? I don't know. How do you live? Oh my God, geez, man. It's hilarious. I mean, the Jets I'm convinced that franchise was put on earth to remind people that their situation can always be worse. And unfortunately, that lesson, the sacrificial lamb for that lesson had to be a gigantic contingent of people. And I know there are a lot of people who are going to say this is a stretch to say that this is a lull Jets moment, but I'm sorry to call it like it is, but that's the truth, dude. Sam Darnold, like, I know a bunch of teams picked him up, but Sam Darnold, like the Jet, that was their guy. And he was the first career pass was a pick 6, and the mono, dude, he got mono as an adult. That's a middle school kissing disease. That's what mono is. And Sam Darnold got it as a second-year starter in the NFL at like my age. Oh my God. Oh, dude. And then he was seeing ghosts, and then when he's the tank commander, he goes and wins 2 games to win them out of those. Dude, Sam Darnold performing just well enough in 2020 in those 2 games against the Rams and Browns were the difference between the Jets getting Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. And we know how that panned out. Although knowing the Jets, dude, let's be so real here, dude. The Jets would have found a way to ruin Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars almost found a way to do it, but then they hired Liam Cohen. They made smart decisions, and needless to say, Woody Johnson and the New York Jets are not making a good decision like that. I don't think, given Liam Cohen's selectiveness with who he wants running the team he's coaching, he would have gone nowhere near Woody Johnson and the Jets. That is dysfunction personified. And then after, the mono, the seeing ghosts, he rehabilitates for 5 years, and now he's playing in the Super Bowl against, guess who? The New England Patriots. Oh God, man. Just an awful, awful turn of events for an awful franchise that has made a lot of awful moves. Oh, dude. Let's have a look at some of the news here. I want to talk a lot about this NFL coaching cycle because there is so much going on here, and there's a third of the league is like having a new head coach, and the Giants, thankfully, John Harbaugh. I am going to talk about John Harbaugh here. I didn't know if I was or wasn't, but it's my show. I didn't really prep for this, but John Harbaugh. I love the move. Needless to say, I mean it's a change that needed to be made, and I'm gonna commend the Mara family, the Tisch family, at this point the Koch family, because they have a stake in the team as well, and that's what they're getting mentioned in pressers now. So I guess I gotta include them. They acknowledged that a drastic change needed to be made in football operations. And they looked at John Harbaugh and they said, we'll let you do whatever you want. Our way is not working. You got to come in and do it yourself. Like, just it's the way it's got to be. Like, whatever you want, money, staff, organizational hierarchy, whatever you want, we'll give it to you. Full send, whatever you want, budget for assistant coaches, anything you want, the checks written, yes to everything. And the Giants, they nailed that pitch perfectly. Granted, I think timing had a lot to do with it because you had the Jet opening, or not the Jet. God, no, not the Jet opening. Jeez, you would never want to go there. But the Bills opening, and we're going to get to the Bills probably after this. As it's New York, and you got some upstate people. I know WIUR's Chase Caridi is a Bills fan. He might love to hear some coverage about this. He's actually in the room right now. But yeah, John Harbaugh coming in. I mean, I'm like Denard Wilson. I am a little meh about, but the Titans, they didn't really have a lot of talent on defense. And reading about some of his schematic work, I think this could work. And they defend the run pretty well. And to be honest, that's what the Giants need to worry about the most. I'm not worried about how he's going to utilize this defensive line. Shane Bowen was just hysterically stupid, and he couldn't get much out of Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Chauncey Golsa, like Darius Alexander. You have 6 guys there who can rush the passer effectively, and Shane Bowen couldn't get any good defense out of him. So I'm gonna just put a lot of trust into what John Harbaugh wants to do. I don't like that he let Carmen Bracillo walk, but again, this was the deal. John Harbaugh got brought in. He knows more than us. He knows more than this entire franchise. He knows more than this fan base. And I'm hoping that he's gonna, like, watching him and watching how he operates a football team is going to help a lot with the intelligence of the Giant fan base. Because I mean, we got some dumb people in our corner, and I'm hoping that having smart people run the football team is gonna help alleviate that. But Yeah, I love the press conference where he mentioned the New York Football Giants. I'm like, yeah, New York Football Giants. And hey, it's a similar blueprint. You have retread head coach with winning experience who hasn't gotten over the hump, or John Harbaugh has gotten over the hump, but it's been long enough to where you can consider him not getting over the hump. You have young quarterback from Ole Miss and a pretty talented defensive line. That's a pretty good blueprint for success. I don't know about you. And coincides with the rise of the New England Patriots. So, hey, yeah, I'm pretty convinced that if the Giants make it to a Super Bowl in the Dart Harbaugh era, the New England Patriots are going to be on the other side. I've accepted it at this point because, again, as I mentioned, only three things in the AFC know how to win. One of them's retired. So really, there's only two organizations in the AFC that actually know how to win. So it's either going to be the New England Patriots or it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. So, and boy, would I love to beat them in a Super Bowl. But no, I'm not getting ahead of myself here. I'm not. No, I'm talking about Super Bowls. I'd kill for 7-10. Dude, if we finish above 500, forget it. I want John Harbaugh to raise the floor. I want him to dig us out of the basement because I see a lot of fans talking. They're getting too far ahead of themselves. And I understand that this is what we do as sports fans. We like to get ahead of ourselves in a lot of situations, but let's slow down a bit and recognize that where we should just be trying to separate ourselves from the Jets and the Browns and the Cardinals and the Titans. We should be trying to separate ourselves from that. We should at least make sure we're at the same level as the Carolina Panthers before we worry about taking on teams like the Seahawks or the Rams. Because that up there, dude, I can't even comprehend that level of football. Because, dude, right there, dude, to quote Tony Stark, dude, that's the end game. To compete against those teams. And hey, dude, not for nothing, when the Giants played against the playoff teams in the NFC and the AFC, dude, they went toe-to-toe with them. Against the Broncos defense at home, Jackson Dart shredded them apart for that entire game. And I don't care about that pick that he threw, but he combined for 4 total touchdowns. Dude, Drake May did nothing in that stadium against that defense. Josh Allen had 4 turnovers against it. But Jackson Dart outscored, I think, every quarter. No, I don't think every quarterback that played there, but it was, the Giants dropped 32 points. I don't think there was any other team on the Broncos home schedule that scored that amount of points. So, hey, we're closer than the rest of the league thinks, but we're not as close as our own fan base thinks. Let's just worry about getting the 8 and 9. Once we get there, then we can worry about making the playoffs. Then after we worry about making the playoffs, we can worry about winning a couple playoff games or winning a playoff game. And then maybe after winning a playoff game, maybe you start thinking about, hey, win the division. Some home field advantage would be nice. The Giants haven't hosted a playoff game since 2012. So, and then after that, we can worry about going to conference championship game, Super Bowl. Then we can start thinking big. But for now, let's just start talking baby steps with the New York Football Giants. Okay, just got a heads up from our producer here, Robbie Basil. We got 10 minutes left, and I think we've got I've got a little bit to talk about here. I don't know if it'll be 10 minutes worth, but I want to touch on the coaching carousel because there is so much that happened here. Robbie was kind enough to send me a few little headlines here. But I want to talk a lot about mostly about the Titans and the Bills. The Titans, they got I think Robert Saleh and Brian Dable. That's a pretty interesting combo. Because Brian Dable, like I'm always gonna have a soft spot for him as Giant head coach because he was bad, but he wasn't Ben McAdoo or Pat Shermer or Joe Judge. Like he wasn't that level of bad. Although even then, Pat Shermer was kind of like whatever bad. But Joe Judge and Ben McAdoo were, oh my God, get the hell out of the building bad. So the Titans, they got Robert Saleh, defensive mind. You pair him up with Brian Dable, who I think with Cam Ward on a rookie contract is a really, really good combo. I think it's a really good pairing because with Dable, you obviously have the track record of Josh Allen. You have the track record of, hey, elevating Daniel Jones to a point where he's a quarterback who can win a playoff game. You had the guy who scouted, handpicked, and had a hand in the development of Jackson Dart. Although Jackson Dart, he's still very early in this development cycle. He just finished his rookie year. But you pair that up with a very promising rookie quarterback who he did extensive work on coming out of college because that was plan A for the Giants, was trading up to get Cam Ward. At least that was Joe Shane's plan A. Thank God that didn't happen. Woof. But I think that is a really good combo there. I think Cam Ward showed a lot last year with a very not talented roster, with a circus of a coaching staff. And he elevated enough, and he would always make a couple throws a game, or he'd make a couple plays that would make me go, wow. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued about Cam Ward because I liked him coming out of Miami, and I like him so far in the NFL. No, he was. I really wanted I was so mad about the Giants winning themselves out of him, but hey, it all worked out because I wouldn't rather have any quarterback other than Jackson Dart at the moment. But yeah, dude, Cam Ward, Brian Dable. That's gonna be a pretty fun group. Titans got a pretty high draft pick. Maybe if you really want to go deep down the Cam Ward development rabbit hole, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate. That could be pretty interesting. They're probably gonna have their pick of the litter at wide receivers because the second overall pick is the Jets. Third overall, I believe, is either them or the Browns. Hold up, let me see the draft order here. Okay, why am I'm clicking on the wrong articles here. Okay, I'm finding a mock draft here. Okay, they have the fourth overall pick. Okay, so the Titans, they have the fourth overall pick. They're going to have their pick of receivers, or they can go for the offensive line with Spencer Fano, Francis Mauigo. That's a really good. I apologize if I butcher his name, but that you can go a lot of places with that pick, and then you have Dable, and who's a brilliant offensive mind. I think that's going to be a really good fit. Anyways, you got the Buffalo Bills. Hold on, let me take a swig here real quick. God, I needed that. The Buffalo Bills, who have been a circus and a half this offseason. My God, dude. You want to talk? I talked before about them blowing their title window, but this really, oof. With how they're. Hold up, I need to text my friend back there. Okay, there we go. Um, the Bills, they fired Sean McDermott. They thought, ooh, they tried to look outside, but then they promoted Brandon Bean to president of pro football ops, and it was already made questionable picks, who let Stephon Diggs go and has refused to find a suitable replacement. Which, boy, you want to talk about helping out your quarterback? Although maybe the quarterback could help out the quarterback by not, but he can live off $250 million instead of 350. No, he's got the Haley Steinfeld's not exactly poor. She's making good money. Dude, Sinners. I mean, oof. That movie is gonna win quite a few Oscars. but, but yeah, dude, and then you go and hire, and so you interview just the most baffling set of coaches that you can interview. You interview Brian Dable to be the head coach, which I gushed about him as an offensive play designer, but he can't handle being a head coach. We saw how it went. I'm not mad at him, again, soft spot, but Brian Dable, he can't be a head coach, especially for a team that has expectations. No, that cannot work. And then you interview Philip Rivers. The only guy who was intriguing on that list was the Rams pass game coordinator. And again, he's a pass game coordinator jumping up to a head coach. That wouldn't have made sense. But hey, there was upside. At least you go the McVay route, which seems to work for quite a bit. But then you go and promote Joe Brady to be your head coach, who Bills fans already wanted hung. They hated Joe Brady. And instead of, you fire Sean McDermott in this defiant move of, we need to make changes. Our way isn't working. We need to do it. We need to do it the right way. We need new voice. We need new everything. We need a good motivator to help this team win. And then you promote Brandon Bean. You reinforce the status quo by not only promoting your GM to president of pro football ops, and then having your owner stumble all over himself in a horrific press conference. And then you go and you promote the offensive coordinator, who, again, your fan base hated, to head coach. Everything about this just screams dysfunction. And I'm not happy if I'm a Bills fan, because I think this is firmly the end of the line for that Super Bowl window. The AFC East is the Patriots to own, and it's going to be that way for a very long time, because once again, it's going back. You want to talk about the trend going back to 2016. You have the New England Patriots and the rest of their division that can't get out of their own way. That will be all for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know this was kind of all over the place. Big time football show. But again, once we get into the Olympics, we'll be talking some Olympic puck and all that. See how USA Hockey screws up that chance. And, baseball, World Baseball Classic. That'll be pretty fun. But anyways, thank you very much for tuning in. This has been Woolly Mammoth Tuesdays from the studios of WIUR. I'm Cam Woolley, saying so long and have a good rest of your day.